When I first started playing basketball at the age of 10, I started playing for club, and the first coach that I had basically said to me, the best way to learn how to play this game, the best way to learn how to improve is to watch guys that are better than you. And he also recommended for me to watch the NBA, watch the EuroLeague, watch the professional guys, watch the guys in the first team, the first kind of men's team of my club. Just spend a lot of time watching the game, studying the game, become a student of the game. He also said, you can watch all the players in all the positions, but really you should focus on the position that you play, and you should kind of focus on someone kind of like you, and then see how they are effective on the basketball court, see what they do. And I remember, Steph Curry, when I was a kid, when Steph Curry was a kid, he grew up basically, at his dad's side while Del Curry played in the professional league NBA, and so he was around all sorts of players. He was around the whole team environment, around professionals, and I think that's one of the best ways to learn is to be surrounded, not just when they're playing the actual game, but actually how they prepare the training sessions, how they go about their life. It's one of the best ways to learn, and so in this kind of weightlifting world, we can do the same thing. We can look at people ahead of us who are stronger than us and study their movements, how they kind of wedge themselves in a deadlift, how they position their feet and whatnot. You can see how they train and whatever. And especially in this kind of, in this age that we live in, social media has made everything kind of really accessible. I remember back in the day when I was 10 years old, so this is like 2000, 2001, 99, around that period, in Australia, it was not readily available to watch NBA. So I couldn't kind of watch the NBA. You could kind of watch the EuroLeague if you kind of got that kind of, dish on the roof. But my family wasn't, we didn't have that available. So I kind of struggled to watch the NBA. We would kind of often get, some games where there was no league pass like it is right now. Social media is an incredible thing, man. You can literally consume weightlifting, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, whatever genre of fitness or whatever the hell you're into, you can consume it. What I would suggest is that don't just kind of watch people like Kayla Woolham, right? You look at your body type and find people out there who are really successful that have your kind of proportions. The reason why I say don't look at Kayla Woolham, well, that guy is just gifted for the deadlift. So, the way he kind of moves, I can still learn from him, but it's very difficult to kind of translate those leverages onto my body. My body, I have shorter arms, my wingspan is shorter than my height, and I have all these kind of different kind of proportions. And so I've kind of found a bunch of people that I follow who are kind of like me, even though I still love to watch people like Lou and Tian Tao and Klokov and whatever, but there are some people who kind of resemble my build, and so I like to watch those type of people. Clarence Kennedy was one of the first guys that I kind of saw lift, and he was one of the first guys that I was like, wow, it's possible to lift 300 kilos and look relatively normal. I don't have to look like Ronnie Coleman. I don't have to look like Phil Heath to move that type of weight. So, I was very kind of new in the game back then. I came off of a basketball world, consuming just basketball stuff. And then I started transitioning. You guys know the story. Started transitioning in my early 20s to another kind of passion. It wasn't a passion at the time, but I kind of was looking in. And so, at the age of 22, 23, I see Clarence Kennedy. I start to see Lou, Tian Tao, Klokov, and I start to imagine, I want to squat like, Lou. I don't want to squat like Clarence Kennedy. I want to squat like Klokov and blah, 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 blah. And then after a little while, no matter what I did, I worked out that my femurs are not 2 centimeters long, kind of like Lou. My femurs are quite long. I'm not actually built for weightlifting. And so I started kind of looking around and looking for people that have my kind of proportions and what do they do. And so the people that have different proportions to you, they might have a different plan altogether. They might have different mechanical advantages or disadvantages. And so people, I'm speaking in relativity here, people with short femurs tend to be really good squatters. People with long femurs tend to be really good deadlifters or thereabouts. There's no hard rule here. I often see people with, if you look at strongman competitors, they don't squat ATG because some of those guys are like freaking 7 feet long, high, tall. but a lot of them have extremely strong pulling power, despite of their crappy freaking leverages. Some of those guys have femurs like 4 meter femurs, and so they look like they're lifting that weight like 55 meters, in duration, but they make it work. And so somebody that has a really poor structure for deadlifting needs to worry about different things compared to somebody that has maybe like Caleb Woolham, who has really long arms and is basically built for the deadlift. He basically does the deadlift like I do the rack pull, right? And so he needs to focus on different types of things. For me, I start freaking, you guys have seen me deadlift. I freaking start basically like parallel. My torso is parallel almost to the freaking ground in comparison to Caleb Woolham. And so I've got to focus on different things. It's just a kind of a example that, even though, I watched the NBA when I was a kid, no matter how much I watched Shaquille O'Neal, I can't do the damn things that Shaquille O'Neal used to do. I can't round down the paint, establish really low post position, grab the ball, spin, send my elbow into the dude's neck, and then rip the damn basket down. No matter how much I practice, I can't do that. No matter how much I practice, I can't lift 400 kilos like Caleb Woolham. Because that dude is basically built for this thing, man. He's built for it. So, when I grew up, I started watching people like Allen Iverson. He's 6 feet tall, maybe 5'11", who knows what they listed him as. He was quick, I was quick, so I kind of studied his game, how to get open, how to take advantage of my structure on the basketball court. And so the way I look at, weightlifting, I look at Clarence Kennedy and I'm like, okay, so this dude is kind of built like me. He doesn't squat perfectly like Lou up and down. He's like a freaking elevator, man. Like there's literally no torso angle on him at all. And you look at his femurs, you're like, okay, that's where the explanation is. Clarence Kennedy, if you're looking from the side, he gets ATG, which I love. That's kind of what made me fall in love with how he squats. But when he kind of gets out of the hole, his bum kind of shoots back a little bit and there's a bit of a torso angle. And then, he's extremely strong in the posterior chain in the back and he kind of, makes it look like it's lightweight. I look at him and I'm like, how does he train? Obviously, I don't live with him. I don't know how he trains. But I could imagine he's worked really hard on his posterior chain. Even the way he squats is, kind of posterior chain. And if you look at his squats don't look humongous. You look at Lou's squats look kind of full and Tian Tao's squats look full. Clarence Kennedy's squats, I remember one of those videos with Juji Mufu, where they were kind of like in the back, all set up in that little garage thing that they had. They were comparing quads. And, Juji Mufu kind of had bigger quads than Clarence Kennedy. And Clarence Kennedy didn't have big quads. And I'm like, God damn, so this dude squats 300 with quads like that? Like, what's going on there? So, as you kind of consume this information, consume this, environment, you learn what's beneficial for you, what isn't. For me, the way I deadlift, the way I move, I've kind of worked out that I need to spend a lot of my energy on kind of like, core tightening, upper back and whatnot. Because for me, I start in such a disadvantageous position that I need to basically work harder in that initial pull, more harder than, let's say, Caleb Woolham, because Caleb Woolham's more upright and kind of, especially in that kind of sumo stance, he's got better leverages, which is fine, technically speaking, it's fine because then I should be a kick-ass bench presser because Caleb Woolham has these really long arms, this really long range of motion, and so comparatively, and we know that, Caleb Woolham's bench is nowhere near the level of his deadlift. And so even though you can complain about all these different things, I should be a kick-ass bench presser. The trouble is, I don't care about bench pressing. Nowhere near enough as I care about the squat. And so it's like, I'm not built for the squat, but I love the squat. I'm kind of built for the bench press, but I don't really love it. So it's just kind of like all these things kind of that are involved. But if I was a powerlifter and I had a coach, the coach would be like, dude, we need to get some damn, numbers on this bench press to make up for our deficits elsewhere. Once again, I'm not a powerlifter. I don't compete. I couldn't care less about that. I just want that squat and deadlift to go up. One thing that I've frequently seen, does not matter what sort of proportions you have as a human being, as a skeletal system, what I always see is these similarities. And some of these similarities have scratched my head. And one of my favorite things to do, I don't know if you guys are the same, I freaking love to people watch them lift. whether it be in the gym, whether it be on Instagram, YouTube. I love seeing people, how they set up, how they lift and whatnot. And then I look at their lengths, proportions, what they do when they lead up to the damn thing. And so there's a few guys that I kind of follow and I kind of study. And there's guys there who lift like 400 kilos, 380 kilos, who are just leverage gods, but they don't have mass on their body, right? And you think to yourself, Jesus Christ, this dude is like, what, how many kilos? And he's just deadlifted 400 kilos? Like, especially the sumo pullers with really long arms. There's like freaking 20-year-olds out there who are pulling like 320, 330 kilos. And they don't look like they've ever worked out. You know what I mean? Like, and they're putting all this weight. It's because they've worked out their leverages to perfection. And when they lock out, you can see the bar's like 1 centimeter away from the kneecaps. When I freaking lock out, the bar's like in my junk. But the bar's basically next to my balls. So the whole length of the femur I got to pull, and these guys lock out at the kneecap. So think about the leverages. Think about the work in terms of physics that's required. It's just a completely different sport at that point. So screw those guys. Screw those guys. They just freaking are like built like forklifts. Perfect leverages and whatnot. Those guys I don't even worry about. It's impressive to see and whatnot, like, this 3-year-old lifting 5 tons because his arms are like 55 meters long. He just basically moves it 1 centimeter. It's impressive to see these kind of freaks. But you're not going to get a lot out of that. You're going to get like the wow factor, then you move on and be like, okay, so how do I get my freaking T-Rex arms to pull this damn thing up? One thing that I've noticed with guys who are not leverage gods and pull big numbers is there are always massive freaking lats and traps and back development. Big ass erectors, big ass lats, big ass traps, everything is just big ass. Even the ass is big on them. So he's even got a big ass. So there needs to be a whole lot of horsepower in a frame like that it's not built for. I kind of took a while to warm up to the whole idea to kind of put meat on my back. But there's just something about it. There's just something about stabilizing the shoulder girdle. If you think about it, the deadlift is, you're holding the damn thing in your hands, and then, your shoulders are hanging off, and then what's holding your damn shoulders in? There's no bone that's like holding that whole shoulder girdle together. There's a whole bunch of ligaments and whatnot, tendons. But really the whole musculature, the lats, the traps, have to prevent that shoulder, what I call unpeeling. You don't want to unpeel your shoulders. Those shoulders need to be solidified. You need to put your shoulder blades into your back pockets. You need to pinch and you need to be strong. Because the moment you start, like I said, ungluing and rolling your shoulders forward as you start pulling, you're bleeding valuable power out. You got to solidify everything. And deadlifting and squatting as well, it's about tension. It's about building that intra-abdominal pressure. It's about building that rigidity. So when you start to pull, you don't have power leaks. And so one of the best ways to prevent that is to put a whole lot of horsepower into your lats and traps. Today was a horizontal pull day. Actually, I think this is 220 and the next one is 240. So it's an interesting angle. You'll see how my back rounded a little bit in the thoracic, definitely, maybe a little bit in the lumbar. I felt it go a little bit, but it wasn't something that I was worried about. But today was my horizontal pull day. So yesterday I did these lat pullover machine. Today I did T-bar rows, and I also did the landmine T-bar row. And man, I have not done that exercise. Maybe I've done it once or twice in my life. So I am rusty as hell, and you guys definitely tell me what I'm doing wrong. Where do I need to keep my feet? I know I was trying to row to my belly button. It just felt really uncomfortable. And I don't even know, maybe body English should be used here. I know Kayla Woolham, on that Mark Bell super training video, 3 years ago, whatever it was, he talked about those rows that he kind of used to build up his deadlift. It was kind of like a half deadlift, half row, basically cheating to the max row. And he said that that's kind of what helped him build that lats, build the traps, and build that specific upper back strength, not just upper back, the whole back strength that would carry over to the deadlift. So I think body English on those rows is what it's acceptable, but I'm just not sure. You guys will have a look at it at the end of the last video, the last clip in this video. But basically, the whole moral of the story is, if you're a god of leverages, you might not have to worry about putting all these freaking cells on your back. If you have T-Rex arms, kind of like me, you need to think about bodybuilding the shit out of your upper back. That's kind of the conclusion that I've come up with. I've kind of identified this ungluing of my shoulders at the start of the pool, and when I get my shoulders stronger, I feel like I'm transferring more power into that bar, because I might have the horsepower from squatting in the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes, but as soon as I start to push or leg press the earth away from that bar, as people say, my shoulders start to kind of let go, and I can't freaking stabilize my thoracic spine. Thoracic spine starts to round. That kind of bleeds over to the lumbar spine, and voila, freaking looking like a cat. And so, I'm not one freaking to grind that shit out and with a completely rounded back. So I let go. So technically speaking, if I had a really developed back, say if I was bodybuilding for the last year and I had developed this kick-ass upper back, technically speaking, I would have a better deadlift, okay? Because of my leverages require me to have a really strong back. Now, if you're a sumo lifter and you're starting with a torso that's basically like vertical, then you don't need as much upper back strength. You might just need quad strength and glute strength to kind of basically squat that thing up. It's funny how people have changed some of these lifts. I've said to somebody on Instagram a few weeks ago, people have completely changed what a squat and what a deadlift is. So people deadlift sumo, which is basically using your quads to do the deadlift. And then they do the low bar squat, which is basically using their hamstrings, glutes, and back to do the squat. So they've completely reversed the thing. So they use the quads to deadlift, and they use the back to squat. Why? Well, more numbers on the bar. But technically speaking, it should be the other way around. The squat should be about quads, and the deadlift should be about the back. But people have kind of played around with their leverages, and they're like, okay, we're just going to maximize these numbers. That's the sport. That's what the sport calls, and that's what we have. People doing splits and sumo, and then moving the bar, 3 inches off the floor, and stopping at the kneecaps, because their leverages allow them to do that. Is that cheating or not? Well, if you've been given that gift of leverage, why wouldn't you use that? Basically, that's the sport. For us guys that are not gifted like that, we got to work around. We have to put some meat on our back, because there's no way you can lift 300 kilos with a weak upper back, because your shoulders are going to unglue. You're going to roll your shoulders forward, and then basically you're stuffed. Anyway, guys, that's what's on my mind today. Basically, I've got to freaking be a bodybuilder of my back. I'll catch you.